Thank you all so much for coming out. This is I think this is our fourth meeting of the Tower Grove South Neighborhood Association. For any of you who are not familiar, there's a ton of new faces here. And I imagine several of you might be from outside of the neighborhood. We're going to be having this town hall discussion later on in the evening with Alderwoman Green. We have Officer Slade, Captain Deeba from the police department. We have Ramona Gau from the Circuit Attorney's Office. We'll have folks from Crime Victim Advocacy Center. So we will get to that later. Just everybody showing up shows that you are very invested and you care very much about what happens in this neighborhood. These are not the pack up and leave people. These aren't the shut the blinds, turn off the lights people. These are the people that really care, really want to do something, want to help their neighbors. So I'm very happy to have you guys here, and we're gonna see what we can do. The Tower Grove South Neighborhood Association is in the process of forming a safety committee. So what we're going to need to get that started is just kind of your ideas, your experiences, any knowledge you have, just anything, so we can figure out what we can do to have a committee that's actually going to be effective and sustainable, not just something that pops up when we have a spike in crime. We need people that are engaged all the time. So if you have any interest in that, please let me know. And I will give you my email address, and you can talk to me about whatever you want. Also on your agendas, there's a general email address on there too, so if you just want to send something that way, if you have just a little idea or a big idea or anything like that, please let us know, because we're just trying to do something that's actually going to work. So, so after that, I do want to focus on just what makes this neighborhood great. All you people coming out, this is fantastic. I'm just so happy to see so many people that are really invested. We have great stuff on South Grand. We have beautiful architecture. We have diverse neighborhoods. We have great schools. We have Tower Grove Park. So just count your blessings as well. We have our little problems, but this is a fantastic neighborhood with fantastic people. As far as, before we do the town hall stuff, I will let you know, if you haven't grabbed one already, we do have some, we're out of light bulbs, so I hope you grabbed one. There's a few still left. That is just one of the most simple things you can do is turn your porch light on, just kind of being a good neighbor, keeping lights on the street, keep an eye out. If you want to go a little step further, please consider becoming a block captain. Even if your block already has a block captain, more the merrier. We have Deborah and Barbie are here, and they are kind of our block captains. They have a sign-up sheet up front and kind of an example of some of the materials they put out. And it's not just about a crime prevention thing. It's also being just a network of neighbors. That's a lot of how we get word out about what we're doing as an organization. That's how we let everybody know about our party last month. So it's just kind of, oh, hi. You know. Oh, I'm Nick Finley. I'm president of the Tower Grove South Neighborhood Association. So yeah, that's basically, you're all here. You're all good neighbors. And so just keep in mind, any way you can be a good neighbor. Block captain, turn your light on, keep an eye out if you see your neighbor pulling up, and just make sure just be aware, and stay involved. And we're gonna work on some more plans, and we'd like you to be a part of those. So, the only other updates I have as far as our other standing committees, our beautification committee we finished that island at Roger and Thalozan. I hope you've had a chance to drive by and see that. Thank you so much to Jeff and everyone else that hopped on board with that. It was a ton of work, and it got done quickly and extremely well, and it's going to be beautiful in the spring. As far as gardening type projects, there's not going to be a whole lot since it's cold, but We hope to get together some kind of like block cleanups or alley cleanups, something like that. So if you're interested in that, we do have sign-up sheets for our beautification committee over there, and we can just send you an email and try to get something together. We also have sign-ups for our social media committee. There's not a lot to announce on that. You can just keep following us on Facebook and Twitter, and if you want to help out with that, then please sign up. We can always use a little experience or some people that want to just help in the process of getting the word out. And finally, our Outreach and Engagement Committee will have a meeting on Monday at Hartford Coffee at 6:30. Their goal is to reach out to the people that aren't here. And additionally, they're going to be working on kind of keeping you guys engaged when you are here. This doesn't always have to be just a series of announcements, and it doesn't always have to be a town hall. It can just be us kind of getting together as neighbors and talking. So we're going to be working on some programming like that. If that's something you're interested in, then please sign up for the Outreach and Engagement Committee or just stop by the meeting at Hartford on Monday. And that's it for committee updates. So I'm going to move on to Miss Rachel Witt from the South Grand Community Improvement District, and she's going to let us know what's going on down there.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Little updates on South Grand. We have a new restaurant open, going to be opening this fall, called Sheesh Restaurant. It's going to be a Turkish Iraqi restaurant at Grand and Humphrey on the east side of the street. Don't have the date yet. I just know it's going to be sometime this fall. It's a total gut remodel. It used to be St. Louis Walk, so that's going to be opening soon. Also, where formerly Verve Hair Salon is, construction will begin this fall, and they're hoping to be opening by May to have an Asian fusion restaurant. It's going to be a 2-story restaurant. So if everyone knows where my office was, I have been moved. So it's very exciting that it's going to be a 2-story restaurant, and very sleek and modern look it's going to be. So it's going to be great for people to check it out when it opens in May. Also, you probably saw Mike painting on South Grand if you've been walking down there. The past couple weeks, he's been painting all the ironwork on South Grand. He's like, I didn't realize how much detail these raw iron fences are. But I think he's finishing this week. So we just want to keep a nice crisp look of all the ironwork on South Grand. So that's been going on. And then also the Ritz Park. We will be installing Tiger Deck wood on top of all the benches, and then our screen is going to be completed to block out the dumpsters later this month. And also the fence that was damaged in front of City Diner is being fixed tomorrow, and next week the bench by Rocket Century will be fixed. So Empire Fencing has been handling the work, but they've just been a little behind. And then with all the rain that we had the past couple days, put them a little bit more behind. So a little update on infrastructure that's happening on Grand. Also, I know Captain Deeba is going to touch upon all this tonight, but just to let you all know, we have put together a public safety committee from my board of directors. We've been working for the past 2 months, researching ways that we could make South Grand safer, and coming up with initiatives with the business owners and getting them more involved and more eyes on the street, and what we can do better with lighting and cameras. So we've been researching, and we're actually meeting tomorrow to discuss what avenue to take on this. But we have been working for the past couple months just researching instead of just jumping into just spending a lot of money on things that might not be helpful. So the Captain Deeba, Captain Days, Captain Coons from the command center has been extremely helpful with researching ideas, coming up with ways what we can do on South Grand. So I just want to give an applaud to the police department for really going the extra mile, for really helping us with our public safety plan. Any questions I can answer? Yep.
On your public safety plan, are you going to address vagrants up on South Grand and the panhandling?
With panhandling, I know the captain can touch more upon this. If they're not aggressively panhandling and they're just asking for money and not being aggressive, there's nothing we can do and nothing the city can do. The only thing you can do, if someone's aggressively panhandling you, is to call 911, let them know you're being aggressively panhandled, have a police report, and if there's so many calls for that individual, there could be a neighborhood order protection put into place. We have done this multiple times with Black Barbie Doll and Mario on South Grand, if you're familiar with them. They have been, you probably haven't seen them in a while. There's a neighborhood order protection against both of them. So those are ways that we can be more proactive on how to handle that, but they have to be aggressively panhandling to really do something about it.
Will you be announcing your decisions that you're making?
Yes, yes, definitely. I don't know, I mean, I'll be honest. Certain cameras, certain initiatives are very pricey. We do have cameras up on South Grand. We're trying to help in ways how we can utilize them better. Our budget is, we only have so much money, so it might be something we might be phasing in the next couple years because we only have so much to spend. And then also we're looking into grants that we can help do matching grants with what we're looking to do. So there's a lot of research been going on and trying to put up with, come up with solutions. But again, we are very limited with funds, just like the city of St. Louis is too.
But will you be announcing what your plans are?
Yes.
before you implement them?
Yes, when we have a plan and my board votes on what steps we're going to take forward, I'll be posting, I'll put it on our website, and I'll put it on our Facebook page. Any other questions I can answer? What's that? Oh, yeah. Also, I'm not sure, something positive. Mark your calendars for Saturday, December 5th, is our Grinchmas event. It has been moved to the Ritz Park. It's from 9 to 1. All the money raised by getting your photo with the Grinch goes to the Shriners Hospital. If you go to our Facebook page, we have a lot of restaurants and businesses who are offering amazing specials if you show your photo with the Grinch. And then also we have businesses who are donating a percentage of their sales that day to the Shriners Hospital. So again, check out our Facebook page, and we hope to see you out on December 5th from 9 to 1 in the Ritz Park. And we'll have Shriner clowns there doing free face painting and balloon animals as well. So something that we try to do, give back every year, and the Shriners Hospital has been a great partner. And now that they're our neighbor in the city, so they're back. So something positive to look forward to this holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next, we will bring up Principal Barry from Eagle College Prep down at down there, Morganford and Chippewa and Merrimack. And here you go.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Taryn Ann Barry. I'm the principal of Eagle College Prep on Morganford and Chippewa in the Tower Grove South neighborhood, and I live in Tower Grove East, and I've been in St. Louis the past year and a half, and I really love the neighborhood. I'm really excited to be doing this work for children and families in Tower Grove South. So Eagle College Prep is a public charter school. We're a public school. We have students in kindergarten through 5th grade, and in each cohort we have 30 scholars with 2 co-teachers. So what we're able to do at Eagle is we're able to achieve an instructional ratio of 1 to 7 for about 80% of the day. The other thing that's exciting about Eagle is that we use blended learning technologies, so we're able to adjust and differentiate our programs to push our kids who are excelling higher and then meet the needs of the kids who need more support in math or reading and writing because we have those computer technologies in the classroom. EAGLE is also an acronym that stands for Expecting Academic Greatness with a Loving Emphasis. And that loving emphasis is something that's crucially important to the work that we do. It's really important to the teachers, and it's really important to the families who are currently part of our community. We use the behavior management philosophy of love and logic, and we want to empower our kids to be able to be critical thinkers and problem solvers so they can grow up to be productive citizens of the Tower Grove South community and of St. Louis and give back to the communities where we live. So we are currently enrolling scholars for the 2016-2017 school year. We'll be opening up our 6th grade next year, and we'll be enrolling kindergarten kiddos as well. So you are welcome to stop by our campus at any time. We're happy to give you a tour, show you what our program looks like in action, and also answer any questions that you may have. I also brought a couple of folders, so I will leave them on the table. So if you are interested in learning more about Eagle, you can grab those folders before you head out this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer about our program? All right, thank you so much for having me tonight, and I look forward to seeing more of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Barry. We do like to kind of give an opportunity to some of the schools in the neighborhood just to let people know that there's some educational choice in the neighborhood, and there's some great schools that are doing some great things. And we thank them for getting involved with the community as well. Next, I will have Pastor Aaron of this here church, who has been who has been so fantastic in rapidly adapting to this much larger crowd than usual. So.
What? This is what all neighborhood association meetings look like. Hi. So before I say anything else, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I see at least 7 chairs over here and some little short chairs where our kids usually sit. So if you're willing to sit on a short chair or sit next to some neighbors you haven't met yet, please come on over. There's seats. I am Erin Cunahan. I'm really glad to get to be here with you. This is our church here at Oak Hill, and we have a bunch of members that are here tonight, but also we're just really passionate about being a part of the neighborhood. Most of this congregation either lives in the neighborhood currently or grew up in this neighborhood, and so one of the things I was asked to speak about tonight, we just want to make sure kids in this neighborhood have safe places to go and safe things to do, to play and hang out, and so we have worked together with Sherry and Clayton, who own the Human Foosball place over on Morganford that the Neighborhood Association went to last month. And we've rented it out one night a month, the third Tuesday of the month. So if any of your middle schoolers or high schoolers want to come join us, they're welcome. It's meant to be a neighborhood night at the foosball, so please do that. We're also in work right now to get some funding so we can get some new equipment so we can open up our gym. We have a gym back here, and so we want to be able to have open gym nights too for kids. So we're working on those two things. The third thing we're doing for youth is we're going to have a service blitz on Martin Luther King Day. There's lots of, I have a 14-year-old, so I know this. She needs service hours all the time, and she also needs something to do on days off school, and I am usually busy. So we're going to do a service blitz. If your kids need service hours, or if they just like doing service stuff, on Martin Luther King Day is going to be our first one. Our church website is oakhillpcusa.org. You can find my contact information on there. You'll find more details about all that stuff on there. The other thing they asked me to speak briefly about, so you might notice there's a house attached to the church over here. It's been renovated in the last 5 years by the congregation to be a mission and service house, so that we have teams, college groups and church groups, and lots of teams that come from all over the country that do service projects in the city. And they, right now, we have an AmeriCorps team that's staying there. So there's 11 of them or 12 of them from AmeriCorps that are here for 6 weeks working with Energy Care. I only have one of these, and there's a lot of you, so how about I give you the website? The website is energycare.org. Energy Care works to make sure that people have the heating and cooling services that they need, that nobody's struggling financially and therefore too cold or too hot. And so the AmeriCorps team is doing winterization for folks that need that in their house. So like sealing up your windows, putting extra door sweeps on so that the cold air isn't sneaking into your house. If that's something that you need help with, they're doing tons of it right now. They did our house over there, and they've done some other ones in the neighborhood, and they'll go anywhere in this neighborhood or in the city or in the county. And they're really good at it because they do it all day, every day. So energycare.org, or if you send me an email, if you email the church through our website, I'll get you in touch with the right people. I think that's everything. Oh, and I was just going to tell people where bathrooms are, because that's always an issue. So the men's bathrooms are out that door right behind this wall. The women's you saw them when you came in, right behind that wall. And then there's a single stall, all gender bathroom down this hallway if anybody needs any of those three. There's a water fountain in the hallway. I think that's it. Did I get it all? Yeah. The third Tuesday of the month at Human Foosball is from 6:30 to 8:30, and we provide dinner too. I should have mentioned that. We provide dinner and foosball and fun times. All right, cool, thank you. But I'm glad you're here.
There's some kids that are lost and they need to meet their father. Quincy Crawford, come to the door.
Quincy Crawford, if you're in here, your father is at the door. If you want to head up to the front door there. Quincy Gau. You go? Okay. Okay. So we are going to be transitioning into this town hall portion. Alderman Green's going to start, and she is going to do a little update on everything else that's going on, because there's always something going on. From there, we will also have Ramona Gau from the Circuit Attorney's Office. We'll have Officer Ed Slade, Captain Deeba, and whoever else wants to come up for the police department. They'll do their brief rundowns, and once we get to the point where we'll have some question and answer time, anybody that will want to ask a question will need to come up and talk into the microphone. So we'll get to that, but for now, I'm just going to turn it over to Alderwoman Green.
Sure. First, thank you so much for so many coming out tonight. This is really amazing, especially since this is only the fourth month that this neighborhood organization has been up and running. So it's really amazing to see every month we've grown. And obviously we know that crime is on a lot of people's minds in this neighborhood right now. And we're here to have, a discussion about all of that tonight. You'll notice that kind of over on the side over there, we have a couple of different boards where hopefully throughout this night we can put up some different suggestions of what each of our roles are in combating crime in our area. So we all know that we have a role to play, whether it's the community, law enforcement, us as elected officials, and figuring out, what it is that that we want to see from each one of us coming forward. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to give a couple of just regular updates, like I normally do at our ward meetings. The first thing is really about the football stadium. So I know there were quite a few here who were at that hearing last Saturday, I guess it was, and we've had a lot of information, I've certainly received a lot of emails about it. Over the last 2 weeks, Alderman Ingrassi and I have reached out to a number of different economists across the country who really specialize in sports financing. There's actually people who their whole life's body of work is sports financing, which is quite fascinating. And we've gotten them to kind of look over the deal for us and give us some feedback. The first thing to note is the research on sports stadiums is not all over the place. It's pretty conclusive that they rarely ever produce economic returns for communities.
No matter what.
So,
Who cares about the Rams?
okay,
Let's talk about crime.
So I'll just wrap up on that really quickly, but the long and short of it is it could be a substantial amount of money coming out of our general operating revenues as a city, and that should concern every single one of us in this room, because right now the current stadium, we pay $2 million a year out of general revenue to support it because the taxes don't cover it. With this new deal, we are looking at somewhere between $8 and $12 million a year coming out of general operating. That means less money for all of the city services that we already feel like we don't have enough of. And so that's the reason this issue matters so much to everybody that's in this room. When we talk about needing more police, or we talk about needing more demolition dollars, or we talk about needing more health and senior services for people in our community, these things get harder and harder to pay for when we're not strategic about where our tax dollars are going at a local level. So that's really the reason that's important, and it does play into our discussions about crime, because as we go forward and we try to pass a bond issue, or we try to pass a tax increase to hire more officers, it gets harder and harder for us to do that if we're not showing you guys that we're using our money effectively. So that's the reason I want to put that out there and set kind of the context for this evening. But with that, I would like to invite Captain Deeba, Ed Slade, up to the stage, and and we'll be able to commence our town hall.
I also want to see, is Katie Lottman here? I didn't get to meet you. If you're here, and you can come on up too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming. Go up and take a seat if you want. Yeah. Take it off.
Can stand, we just have to use the mic.
Okay.
There are still a few seats scattered about. If you guys want to filter in and find what you can.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Captain Mike Deeba, Commander of District 2. The Alderwoman and Nick, I appreciate the invitation tonight. First off, do I have any policemen here? Let's come on in here, guys. Don't be bashful. Step in for a second. Hey, if you could, please, a round of applause for my policemen. Thank you. I'm going to field all your hard questions in about 3 minutes. I'm going to go through the stats and the numbers real quick. Far Tower Grove South. This time last year, we're up 4 robberies compared to last time this year. However, year to date, we're -7. So our officers and all of us here need to stay diligent to reduce and diminish these robberies. Aggravated assaults, a third or half of those are usually domestic. Acquaintances know each other. They're up 19% still for the year. Overall person crime, compared to last year, we're down 2%. Some fascinating things for me since being here in February. Your burglaries, you're down -37 from last year. So I would say applaud yourself, besides my officers. That's astounding. What is leading the crime in Tower Grove South right now still, and I've spoken to your last meeting about this, is our shoplifting. And something to keep back in the back of your minds, and the Alderwoman was with me, for our last meeting in May or June, I invited every realtor in Gravois Plaza. We had one show up. So again, that was fairly disappointing to me, and I know the Alderwoman addressed that. Another astonishing thing, this time, compared to this time last year, we're down 9 auto thefts. You might not think that's a lot, it is, and year to date we're down 46, and that's due diligence by all of us. Hey, remember we talked about you can't leave your cars running. And for a while, I had my night watch officers banging on doors between 3 and 5 and 6 a.m. saying, hey, you can't leave the car running. We don't issue tickets. It's just a courtesy call. Hey, I also want you to know Commissioner Dotson and Colonel Ashok and Major Kenny Cagle is here with me tonight. We have a lot of interaction, not just with the public in Tower Grove South, but with the characters. And from the 5th to 11th this month, we've done over 40 pedestrian stops. That's us seeing characters acting suspicious, stopping them, checking them out. Hey, if they're wanted for a warrant or whatnot, they're arrested. If they're not, hey, thanks for your time, and we release them. Last week, Thursday, I was the night chief, and that's when we had 2 robberies in Tower Grove South. So the progression with my command, once we got hit with the first one, and I'll get into those in a minute, I immediately called the Special Operations Unit down to the Tower Grove South, for an example, and I have that luxury that Commissioner Dotson and Major Cagle have given me. So that night, in a nutshell, we had 2 robberies, or 1 robbery and 1 attempt in Tower Grove South, and I think you had another one in the 3rd, which is just east of us, and then the 1st District South. That night alone, although they weren't actually robbery arrests, the Special Operations detectives made 3 gun arrests, which is fairly significant in my world. I can also tell you last night alone, not in our neighborhoods down south, but the special ops unit deployed by Commissioner Dotson and Major Cagle made 3 arrests last night for robberies. That is significant. Again, right now we're on pace to beat the crime records from last year. With that said, at the front, and if you didn't have a copy of it, I'll put my email up front, and those of you who've met me, I live off the email. It's a tool I use so you can help me stay accountable and my command staff. I printed, within the last week we've had, I'm sorry, this is just for November. So today's the 18th, we've had 6 robberies in Tower Grove South. I'm not satisfied with that. And what I put up here, I redacted some of the victims' names. So you all can look at this. The descriptions to me, and I've been doing this almost 27 years, I think we have at least 2 or 3 groups of characters doing these robberies. What I've also noticed is, not just in Tower Grove South, we just had one at Pershing and Taylor, the Major and I were speaking about, and it's 4 or 5 characters, and they're all on tape, and all 4 or 5 of them got literally arrested about within the hour because we had camera surveillance. They walked by, they saw a woman pulling in by herself, 5:30 in the afternoon. They see a woman pulling in, they stand on the corner, they're dressed like normal young men, maybe getting out of school. I don't know, nothing caught my eye with their dress. Their mannerisms though, watching her, watching up and down the street, once she got out of the car, they approached her. The video is kind of hazy. They produced a weapon that ended up being a pellet gun. But during that whole time period, here's a young woman on a bike riding by. And okay, I'll let that one go. Maybe she had her headphones in. But there's another woman walking north or south to north on Taylor, walking her dog, and you can clearly see she has an idea something's going on. So I'm not saying get involved. I'm saying keep walking down 911. It ended up working out the benefit for us. The victim was not hurt, number 1. Number 2, within the hour, the characters tried using a debit card at Page and Walton, for an example. They arrested 4 or 5 of the characters. So with that said, the progression of our robberies, just so you know, if he's robbed, my detective bureau goes on every robbery. And they canvass the area, knocking on doors, looking for public cameras, looking for private cameras. But we also go back the following day, and we do the same. People work odd hours. And with that said, and this is the first time the Alderwoman's hearing about it, but I have 3 neighborhoods thus far, and I'm going to start with Tower Grove South probably Monday. Officer Ed Slade to my left. We created a database in Forest Park Southeast, The Hill, and St. Louis Hills, and I'd like to have one here, and it's going to have a database that, it's limited access. It's for myself, my detective bureaus, and my burglary squad. Now, if the intelligence unit calls with some type of horrific undercover operation, of course, I'm going to share the database with them, but I'd like to have a list of all public and private. Public I have. Anyone who has private cameras, and you'd like to be involved with us, and like I said, it's vetted information. Not everybody's going to have it, but it's another tool that my officers can use, and my detective bureau lock these characters up. The reason I bring a lot of policemen to all my community meetings, not just to recognize them, but I learn from them. Before the meeting, one of the coppers said, "Hey, Captain, you know, more times than not, whether it's the 911 evaluator talking to the victim of a robbery, of petty theft, whatever it is, your adrenaline's up and you're scared. We understand that. But our evaluators and my sergeants and my policemen, when they ask, which way did you see him go? We usually get the wrong direction. So one of my officers said, hey, you might want to mention to the crowd, hey, you got to be aware of your surroundings, not just getting out of your car, but, you know, hey, I know my house is on the north side of the street, for an example. That'll help us with our response time. With that said, I provided the Alderwoman, I'm sure she's still reviewing it, it's a handful, and your president of Tower Grove South, the neighborhood ownership model that I'd like to see all 19 plus of my neighborhoods embrace eventually. It began Central, West End, North, and South, which is the 5th District, and it's in Forest Park Southeast, my most northern neighborhood. It's championed by Washington University. It is in depth, and he has 2 copies of things. One is the monthly report they send out for the NOM, the Neighborhood Ownership Model, and number 2, which is the most important, is the yearly report in the court advocacy. When we talk about the NOM, if I had my way, I would have a policeman assigned to every neighborhood. Folks, we're not going to have that luxury, okay? Officer Slade has Tower Grove South, but as soon as Captain Deeba came in, he has 5 other neighborhoods. So with that said, the NOM can be properly, and we will guide you. The first part of NOM is citizens on patrol. You're out there to gather intelligence information only, but not just about the characters you might think committing crimes, the derelict cars, the rundown properties. Everything that you see intelligence-wise, you're going to vent to me or Officer Slade. Part 2, in a nutshell, of the NOM, which Commissioner Dotson, and I agree 100%, is it's the court watch, it's the court advocacy. And once he filters some of this information out, and there's a lot of it, it shows you how in-depth Forest Park Southeast has gotten watching these characters. Their arrest, the cases issued, their bond. If it's a horrific crime and we see a $10,000, 10% from a terrible judge, then we see the judge's name. Or let's say we get a good bond, and then we all watch as a group the bond reduction hearing that comes up a month later where these characters try to sneak their way out. But we have enough people in Tower Grove South where the president could assign 2 or 3 teams and everyone rotate. And it could be soccer moms, soccer dads, whoever. 4 or 5 of you watching the court process, and then, hey, there's a bond reduction hearing with Stovall Reed next Wednesday. Hey, we all want to go, believe me. I could go in there with 10 policemen, that has 0 bang. But if Ed or I walk in there with 10 or 15 of you after we meet for coffee downtown and go into a bond reduction, I guarantee you, once the judge sees you, he'll be held. But again, we can't control the judges. In my opinion, there's no accountability. We have some good judges, and we have some judges that just don't get it. Have you seen through the history of what we've, Commissioner Dotson and us have put out to you? So to me, that needs to change. But anyway, gave you a snapshot of the NOM. The Alderman and I are working on that. What I like to do, and I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I think, hey, you got some questions, and I'm thick-skinned. I want the questions that you don't want to ask. Ask me anything you want. Hey, if I know the answer, I'm going to give it to you. Okay, if I don't know, I'll get back to you. But I think it's really important that I hear from you to see what, am I performing satisfactory? Are you seeing some things where you think we could do business better? Because communication, I'm only as strong as everybody in this room. Hey, the 2nd District is the best police district in the city. Has nothing to do with my ego. It's all those policemen right there who do exactly what I ask them. They're reducing crime, but also I have, in the 2nd District, I have this. I have engagement by all of you. I'm strong because of the fine citizens, and I mean that sincerely. If I'm in a meeting with go to all 18 of my neighborhoods and I got 3 or 4 attending, you think anybody downtown is going to notice us? No. So, who's got a question? Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question about the example you gave about Pershing and Taylor, the incident where the woman was getting out of the car. You mentioned a woman on a bike and a woman walking a couple of dogs. Do those women do anything to assist? Did they call?
Yeah, and no, good question. Like I say, there was a woman riding, I guess, eastbound on Pershing, like riding her bike right by it. Like I said, I want to say she might have had headphones in. She was bike riding. 5:30 at night, it's dark already. Hey, I'll let that one pass. The other woman, to me, walking her dogs, she was probably scared to death and didn't know what to do. So again, we need communication. We need to enhance our communication, because one of the biggest crimes, and you're going to laugh that I'm working on now, Has anybody in here been a victim of, you go out there and find your cars or tires or rims missing? Anybody in this room? Me. Okay, well, again, Tower Grove South, we are really smashing crime, but I'm outraged I even have one. And these characters are, you know, God love you, if you're gonna call about the illegally parked car or the dog, hey, when we hear something behind the house on the parking pad or something out front, take a look. If you see 3 guys or 2 guys putting a car on blocks, call us. I'd rather apologize to them later, but that is a crime that my detectives and my officers are really on. We're trying to clean that up for you.
Actually, before we do more questions, I do want to let Ms. Gau from the Circuit Attorney's Office and Ms. Lottman from Crime Victims Advocacy, and then from there, then we can start taking questions, and we can get a little bit of input from everybody on those questions. All right. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramona Gau. I'm an assistant circuit attorney, which means I'm a prosecutor here in the city. I work for Jennifer Joyce, and there are several assistant circuit attorneys in my office. I'm one of many. I will tell you, listening to Captain Deeba talk, I'm looking here through, I printed out recent cases that we filed, and it's disheartening to see out of 6 robberies that have happened in November, we haven't been able to file any, and I know the detectives are continuing to work on that. But at the court level, the officers are at the street level, and they're gathering the witnesses, they're gathering the evidence, and then they come into our office and they ask us to file charges. And even in situations where they know who did it, even in situations where we sometimes have confessions, oftentimes we can't file charges because we don't have cooperative witnesses. If you're around town and you see somebody or you hear somebody talking, they pick up the guy who they suspect did it, and he says, "You're right, I did it." If we don't have somebody to take into or to put in the courtroom to say, "This is what I heard, this is what I saw," I can't go forward with the case. And so I think what Nick said at the very beginning was, the people here are not close the blinds people. And that is key, and I think that's something the captain was talking about and something that I want to highlight for everyone here. We cannot curb crime. We cannot hold people accountable for victimizing if you're going to close the blinds and not want to be involved or participate. It's understandable. People don't want to get involved. People are afraid. You have busy lives. You need to go to work. Understandable. But at some point, the obligation is on the community and on individuals to follow through. It's so frustrating when I'm looking at cases and going through my workload, and even when we have witnesses up front, they slowly fall off throughout the case. And the last thing that I want to do is, in violent crimes, watch somebody walk away and essentially get away with it because we don't have that witness cooperation. So that's something that I just want to impress on you and encourage you. If you hear something going on the streets, or if you're in the grocery store and you hear, people talking about something, you're not necessarily going to be a witness, but share that information with the police. See what it leads to, see where it goes. The police force, they have excellent detectives, and I have been impressed time and time again with what they've been able to come up with and find out with just small pieces of information. A little background on myself: I was a criminal defense attorney for 8 years. I went into civil practice, and then I decided to come back to the criminal law on the other side and prosecute. Because ultimately, first of all, I enjoy trial work, and second of all, I want to hold people accountable. And I've seen the system work, and I've seen the system not work. So with that said, I think that's really all I have at this point. I'm going to be up here for questions.
Hello, my name's Katie, and I work for the agency. It's called Crime Victim Advocacy Center. I just want to talk a little bit about what our agency does. We work with victims of all type of crime, and that can be anywhere from domestic violence, robberies, and up to homicides. We work very closely with the police departments all throughout the metro. We have lots of different services through our agency. We provide crisis counseling, advocacy work through the criminal justice system, as well as information and education of the criminal justice system. We also provide counseling as well as, sorry, I had a brain fart. Resources. We're a United Way agency, so if we do not provide the services, we have lots of resources to provide for people. We have a hotline that people can call during business hours of Monday through Friday. So even if you ever have questions about the criminal justice system or resources out there throughout St. Louis City, we definitely can provide any of that. All of our services are free of charge. I brought a ton of brochures. If anybody wants to take one home, you're more than welcome to. And I'll be around for questions as well, so anybody can ask me any questions as well.
All right, so I think we are ready to get the Q&A portion going. I do want to just kind of set down some ground rules. We want to make sure that we keep everything civil and efficient, so we ask you to be respectful. We have a lot of diverse opinions in the room, and that's what makes our neighborhood great and fun, but just be mindful of the diversity of opinions and listen. Please keep those questions focused. We're talking about crime and safety tonight, so we don't really want to get off track discussing any other topics, so stick to the topic. Please refrain from making any kind of discriminatory remarks or broad generalizations. If anybody says anything that's real out of hand, we will ask you to leave. And we're going to try to keep this moving, so I ask that your questions be brief, and I ask that your answers be succinct. And anybody that does have a question, I actually would like to have you come up to the microphone. STL TV is recording this, and that way they can actually get the sound. We might do a little line situation here, perhaps.
My name's Beth Griffin. I live in the 4100 block of Arsenal Street, and I'd like to express some deep concern about the amount of gunfire in my neighborhood. In the past 4 months, there have been 2 shootouts, that's all I can describe them as, in the alley behind my house. There has been a rolling gunfire battle going down Arsenal Street with 2 cars shooting at each other, and a woman was shot on Arsenal Street at Center Cross Drive, getting out of her car. So there was always police response, because we called and we saw the response, and I was very glad for that. But what I want to know is, what can we do about the prevalence of guns in this neighborhood, and what can you do to keep us safe? Captain Deeba?
Ma'am, thank you. Since it's a fluid case, I'm not going to talk about the 4200 shooting, or I'm sorry, Arsenal. I'm in communication with that victim. She's unbelievable. We're actually going to have something probably at the beginning of the year, because I have anywhere from 15 to 18 policemen that were involved with that event, and they're going to get letters from the chief of police commending them. Here's Mike Deeba's opinion. We need more bite in our bark. How many times does she have to issue a case, and how many times does the character have to get probation till there's some type of recourse, you know. Well, yeah, when it's a big thing in the media, finally we have somebody shot, or, you know, or even worse. I can tell you that we are in the area. Our response time is almost immediate. And any other, all my watch commanders, for example, were talking about when we first got that first robbery last Thursday night. Again, I flood the area with probably at least a minimum of 20 to 30 policemen. So it's immediate response, but I would say, you know, it's a lot bigger than just, it's holding the parents accountable. Another thing that my command staff and my supervisors, if we get a juvenile for shoplifting or a weapons violation, it doesn't matter. We have any encounter in the 2nd District with a juvenile, besides them going to the juvenile building, and let's just say they release them or not, we find the parent, guardian, and they get the city court summons too. And basically, in a nutshell, it's endangering the welfare of a child. So at my small level, I'm trying to be a parent, you know, I have over 70,000 residents in the 2nd District. I'm trying to be a parent and hold these young men and women accountable, but I can only do so much. I think we need legislation that the bite in it versus what we have now. I'm in the middle. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. You know, I just want it all to stop. That's not going to happen, so I think we all need to get together. I think, you know, I'd like to enter the city of St. Louis, Mike Deeba personally, I'm not talking for any of my upper command, and, you know, welcome to the city of St. Louis, you know, gun-free safe zone, the whole city. And I don't care what the crime is. If you get caught with a weapon or in your immediate span or whatever the attorneys use on me all the time, it's 5 years. It's not debatable. They might get you out of the littering charge or whatnot. It's 5 years, folks. So that's my take on it.
And I'm going to call him out. Representative Colonna is here as well for some of our state needs regarding gun legislation, because unfortunately, a lot of those stiffer penalties for guns are things that we have to rely on the state legislature for. And a couple of years ago, you may or may not know, we had an amendment that was passed that made gun ownership in the state of Missouri an inalienable right. It's in the courts at the moment, but it has allowed a lot more folks to get their hands on guns that would not have had access, not legally had access to guns previously. The other thing I'm going to say is a lot of the guns that we see that make it out onto our streets do so because they've been taken from somebody's car, they've been taken from somebody's home when their home's broken into. So one of the things we can do as community members is if you have a gun in your car, make sure you have one of those gun safes that actually bolt down to the floor of your vehicle and you put it in there. First place people go to look for a gun in a car is the glove box, and that's the place that most people put them. And ask your friends in the county too, you know, if they're coming down to a baseball game or a football game or whatever, to be responsible about where they're putting that gun, because a lot of those guns are getting onto our streets because they're, you know, owners have them and they're getting taken from them. We also see it in home break-ins around here. So if you have guns in your house, having them locked up, you know, within your house that make it more difficult that if somebody does break in, to be able to get that, because those are some ways that we can keep more guns off of our streets while we're working on some of these legislative issues. Do you have anything to add?
I liked your question about what can I do, because I think that's why everyone's here this evening. What can everyone here personally do to make a difference? And from my perspective, what you can do is get involved in the neighborhood association and the court involvement where you know what's going on with bond hearings, you know what's going on with sentencings, and you can physically come sit in the courtroom and my office can ask the judge to let the neighborhood be heard regarding what's going on before they make their decision to lower a bond, before they make their decision of what to do in regards to a sentence. So from my perspective, I think that would be the straightforward answer to what can you personally do.
It'll be for me.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adrienne Poe of the 4000 block of Humphrey. I'd like to know what are the most effective measures that I can security measures that I can take around and in front of and behind my home to protect my family and to protect my neighbors. Based on the types of crimes and the statistics that you've reported earlier, what are the things that I can change about my home that are going to have the most impact on my family's safety and my neighbors' safety?
Thank you, ma'am. First off, and what we spoke about at all our community meetings, at night, lighting, exterior lighting, motion lights in the gangways or in your yards, in the alleys. In a perfect world, I'd like to walk down your alley from corner to corner, and every garage I hit, boom, 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 motion lights. Cameras. Again, if you have a private system and you want to get involved with our database to help defeat crime, Ed Slade, I'll talk to you after this meeting. But a lot of people I know throw it out there as a deterrent. You can, for $30, buy the fake camera with the red LED. It's an intimidation factor for these characters. So well lit. Make sure we lock our front and back door. And that is something that should be done everywhere. In the city, in the county, everywhere, you have to lock your doors. Dogs, again, or I know a lot of people have the, beware of dog and they don't have one. Any type of deterrent you can think of. When you're coming home two nights from now, if you turn on your block and you see some characters standing at one, if it doesn't look right, pull down to the corner, dial 911. Have an officer to meet me right now. The captain said in his meeting, if I'm not comfortable, oh no, they'll do it. I'm not there. Hey, I want the policeman to help me get in the door. It could be nothing, but let us apologize versus something to happen to you. But again, in communication, I have some neighborhoods that, these three are home during the day and they know when everybody's coming home between 5 and 6. They sit there with their wine or their coffee and they just watch their block. And that in itself, if you think about it, when we talk about the NOM, the neighborhood ownership model, part one is citizens on patrol. And it's gathering intelligence. So her walking her dog or him sitting there having his coffee on the front, that is, you are gathering intelligence for us. He'll see something, maybe he calls us before you even get home. But everything is communication and getting everybody, every resident involved. Is there another one? Sir?
Yes. My name is Frederick. I live over on Portis, but I work up in Fountain Park. So there's a dichotomy in my existence, and I hope you recognize that. What's your feeling on concealed carry permits? And incidentally, if you have a gun locked up in your house, you might as well have a broomstick.
Holy cow. Holy cow. There goes that promotion.
Well,
what are my feelings on carry and conceal? It's your Second Amendment right. We're getting a little bit on all this answer, and I appreciate you helping me. Hey, that's off the topic, but I do understand, hey, it's your Second Amendment right, but we have to be responsible.
Okay.
The Alderwoman, that's a good topic. I know some people that bought the lock boxes. They didn't bolt, they just threw the lock box, so the guys take the lock, so you want to bolt it down, but again, it's your Second Amendment right. Okay.
Reports this week where the safe's been torn from out underneath the seat of the vehicle, so I don't know, if you're not carrying anything, you might as well leave it at home.
Well, I feel relatively safe in the neighborhood. The only time when I have a concern is when I come home at night and I'm by myself and I'm parking on the street and have to run up the front steps into the house. What happens if you're confronted with anyone? What's the best thing to do?
Give them what they want and flee. Here, it's fight or flight. That's human nature. Okay, so her question was, what should she do if she's confronted? Human nature is fight or flight. I will fight, and I want all you to. If I was approached, I would pull my wallet out and keys, and it's all tactics, and I would throw it. Here you go, sir. Here you go, ma'am. And I run that way. That's me personally. But if you came home and besides it being well lit or your motion light popping on, the put the Alderwoman back to work, and I was just talking to one of her counterparts last week, Steve Conway. There's parts of Shaw where are the streetlights. So I had to update, and she might not know about, yeah, she'll talk about that, but hey, the streetlights are very important, and it'll make you feel safer, and it'll make the characters feel unsafe. So.
Speaking of lighting, most of you who have come to the meetings know that I have kind of this ulterior goal or motive to make the 15th Ward the most well-lit ward in the city. That's kind of our goal. With participatory budgeting that we did, I guess last spring, overwhelmingly people requested that we have additional street lamps. So we have LED lighting that's going in throughout the ward. The first round of it will be going in within the next couple of weeks. We allocated $20,000 to update that in our most high foot traffic areas, and then also the areas that see the most crime in the ward. Then our special taxing district, the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizens Special Taxing District, had some money left over in their budget, and they put about $50,000 more toward expanding the lighting for the ward. So between now and the end of the year, we'll slowly start to see streets that are getting these new LED lights. They're much brighter. It's a much cleaner light. It makes it much easier to see, not have so many shadows. And the goal is between now and 2017, I have to wait for next year's budget, but to replace all of the lights within the ward so that we all of them have these brighter LED lights.
Hi, my name's Dan. I live on the 4100 block of Wyoming. So I guess apart from the lighting and small details, a lot of the solutions that I've heard discussed revolve around the assumption that the current system of just snarfing up as many people into the criminal justice system, the prison industrial complex, as possible is like a model that's working for us. And I question that. I don't know that that's the most helpful thing for us. What I have seen is a lack of trust in the system. A lack of trust that police officers will treat everyone with dignity and respect. A lack of trust in prosecutors who will try to convict even if they're not guilty, right? And the lack of trust that even if someone is convicted and spend time in prison or jail, right, that they're going to come out better than when they went in, right? What we see is that people come out more damaged than when they went in, right? So I'd like to see more people on this panel who could represent some like different ideas, some models that could actually do something to help our communities. I'd like to see Sarah Butler from the St. Louis Area Restorative Justice Collaboration up here. I'd like to get like more discussions with neighbors getting to know each other, right? That's how we build trust, it seems to me. The biggest problem that I see in this room, right, and it speaks to the lack of trust, is that when we look at the demographic makeup of this room, it does not represent our neighborhood, right? We have a huge section of this neighborhood that does not feel comfortable, welcome, or safe in the same room as police officers and prosecutors and a bunch of people who look like me. All right.
I don't know if anybody's going to be responding to that. Okay, my name is Mark. I live on the 3900 block of Thelozin. My question, I guess, is mostly for Captain Deeba. I appreciate that you were, when you first started speaking, that you were comparing our stats to our own stats. But the last time that I compared stats citywide, Tower Grove South seemed like astronomically above in crime rates above everybody else. And I don't see us as being, we're more affluent than some and less affluent than others. We have a higher percentage of seniors than some, but less than others. I don't understand why Tower Grove South, as desirable a place to live as it is, why our stats are so astronomically higher than the rest of the city.
Thank you for the question. To make note, check them again. I mean, Tower Grove South is one of the neighborhoods, when I had the old 3rd District in 2013, that was up there leading the city. I had Gravois Park also. It has gotten better. But you got to understand, a lot of, I would say probably 2/3 of the characters coming down here are coming down here. You know, I just talked about our robberies, the 5 robberies we've had in November so far, the 2 when I was working. So we need to be more diligent in what we're doing down here, because these characters are coming from the county or East St. Louis or wherever. And well, again, it's not just here. I mean, there are robberies throughout the city, St. Louis County, Fairview Heights, Illinois. But you know, right now tonight, our concern is Tower Grove South. If I had the answer to that, then you know, maybe I'd have her job. But I'm just saying, hey, that's a good question, and I'll mull over this, because Ed takes notes of everything, of the hard ones for me. I don't have an answer for you per se. I can just tell you we're trying our best. The gentleman who just spoke, he has some good points. Hey, guess what? That's why when I first started talking, you know, if you noticed, I talked about holding juveniles or their parents accountable. You know, hey, I have them, you know, the 12, the 13, the 14, the 15, but that's why I issue city court summons to the parents to try to, you know, again, I have over 70,000 residents in the 2nd District. You know, we're trying to help play parent, you know, the best I can. But that's a good, hard question. Do I have the exact right answer? I don't. We experienced the same thing across the park in the Shaw neighborhood in North and Southampton for the 2nd District. So it's not isolated to the to the Tower Grove South. If you look at the neighborhoods, we've been reducing crime in Tower Grove South a couple months ago, but I had a spike in South and Northampton Avenue, for an example. It could have been myself displacing crime, moving assets around. It could be the characters, oh my gosh, he's over here flooding this neighborhood, let's go here. So it's a good, hard question that, you know, actually one of the few I'm not going to forget tonight. And I do appreciate your comments. Hey, this is, I disagree. I think this is a good snapshot of the neighborhood, but I also think I need everyone, male and female of all color, involved if we're going to solve this. And again, that's another hard topic that most people don't want to talk about it. I'll talk about it all day and night. I applaud him for bringing that topic up. But again, that's something we need to work on, not just as a 2nd District, I mean, as a society and a culture. So again, I don't want to get too far off the law enforcement end of it. So, I mean, but thank you.
I think I know what stats you've seen, and one of the issues with it, comparing Tower Grove South to other neighborhoods, is we're almost 4 times as large as most of the other neighborhoods.
Large neighborhood, you know, you can't compare it unless you're doing a per capita study. You can't compare it to Benton
Correct.
Farm, you know. But I mean, when I looked at that, I was like, okay, I just don't get it. I mean,
Right.
It's a great place to live, and when people talk about, you know, people that move into the city, say, they stay in West End for a while, they end up, where do they end up buying? They end up buying over here.
Mm-hmm.
But why? I mean, you know, when I talk about like the senior citizens, I realize that sometimes people think that seniors are more easy targets. But we have pretty much, you know, the same per capita as any other neighborhood. We have people that you can see into their living room, and they've got a big television set, and then you've got people that can't see into their living room. You know, it's not really different in so many aspects to other neighborhoods in the city. But the stats are like,
well, the difference is when you run it on the per capita versus the number of incidents, because we are so much larger and we have so much more population here. It's hard to compare us to a St. Louis Hills or even a Gravois Park, because they're such small neighborhoods compared to. Right. So we have to look at the context of where those numbers are pulled. I had that same thought when I first saw the numbers, and then I realized, oh, we're being compared to these neighborhoods that are much smaller than we are. And so the context that we're pulling those numbers in really matters.
And just so I don't, you guys scared me. I was in that tunnel vision mode. If I could introduce Commissioner Sam Dotson.
Hi, thank you for being here, sir. My name is Justin Roth, 3800 block of Utah Place. I'm actually very new to this neighborhood, just moved in very recently, and I kind of had a follow-up to what you were asking and what you were speaking about before. And at least from my personal view, I'm wondering if part of the solution is just quite simply getting more eyeballs on the street from the neighbors. My personal experience, I moved here from the Southampton, St. Louis Hills, Francis Park neighborhood, and I can say from my personal view, if you were to go out at, say, 7 o'clock at night in that neighborhood, you would see a lot more people outside walking their dogs, working on their lawn, going for a jog, you know, whatever it may be. There's just more people out on the street, and particularly thinking back to these robberies that happened last week. I mean, that was at, I forget what it was, 6, 7 o'clock, something not too late, and that really bothers me. It's not like this was happening at 2 in the morning. This was, you know, relatively early in the day. And just from my personal experience, again, I haven't been here that long, but, you know, last weekend I was out walking my dog Saturday afternoon at like 3 o'clock or something, and I hardly saw a soul out. I mean, I know we have a good amount of people. It's a fairly active community, but whatever we can do to get more people, just encourage them. Take your dog for a walk. Maybe start a running club. I don't know what the solution is, but maybe just some very simple things to encourage neighbors to get out and just be out and get more eyeballs in the street. That's my personal 2 cents of what I think we can do to help out as neighbors.
I wanted to speak really quick. I didn't get the microphone earlier, but to comment to the issue you brought up about trust in the community and looking at alternative ways other than just locking everyone up. It's not up and going yet, but I will tell you that my office is currently working on a gun diversion program. So the Circuit Attorney's Office is looking at ways to try to curb this early on. And I appreciate the fact that you brought up the trust. I was on the defense side for 8 years. I was talking to these folks who were charged. I've seen that distrust, seen it firsthand, and ultimately fixing that is much larger, but it starts one person at a time. And I think everyone who can accept it, it just keeps building from there. But ignoring it hasn't gotten us anywhere. So I appreciate your comments about that. I will tell you this, the last thing I want to do, and the last thing anyone in my office wants to do that I know, is convict somebody that didn't do it or prosecute them that didn't do it. So, and the fact that that perception's out there, and I know that perception's out there because I used to have it, is a big deal. And that perception is costing us cases that we're losing in court that we shouldn't be losing. And so I appreciate your comments, and I'll tell you, I'll take it back to the office, and we're going to continue working on it. So thank you.
Circuit Attorney's Office is working with the St. Louis Branch NAACP along those lines.
Yep. And just really quickly, 30 seconds, apologize, I was late, I was at another event. Great turnout tonight, I'm really excited to be here. But to your question and to your point, I'm probably in a little bit of a minority in police chiefs. When I talk about what we do, I talk about outcomes. And very seldom do you hear me talk about putting people in jail. I want outcomes that keep all of us safe and keep our community safe. That's why she talked about the armed defender docket, the diversion program for guns. Hey, I think it's important. If we don't change people's educational status, their job status, deal with their substance abuse issues, their anger management issues, and they go right back into society, whether it's at the end of a jail sentence or after a probation that a judge gives them, how do we expect any different outcome? And we just start a cycle. So when we talk about it, I agree with you. If you look at the communities even around our region that are successful, they deal with those issues. And so I agree with you. It's not about putting people in jail. It's about keeping us safe, and we keep people safe by getting the right outcomes.
Hi, my name is Jessie. I live on the 4000 block of Potomac.
Sorry. About 4 years ago, I was burglarized twice. They kicked in the back door once, and before I could get an alarm system, they kicked it in again to steal all the stuff I just replaced. So my question is, I got the alarm system. I got an alarm call on my back door. I, had the police go by. I told the alarm company, have the police go by. I guess they didn't find anything, and I get a $25 charge for that. So I learned that if the police believe it's a false alarm, you get charged $25 if they come out and don't see anything. So it's the decision if I get a call again, do I want to pay $25 or have the police come out? Because I don't know. I don't know that it's a false alarm when I'm calling because it's an experience I've had and I don't want to be burglarized again. So I don't know what to do about that.
And that's a great question. Let me start with, it's not the police department that charges you. It's not the police department that charges you. It's not the police department that charges you. There's actually an ordinance in the city of St. Louis that false alarms that has a graduating scale like that. Do I think it's right? No, I don't. Because we encourage you to get alarms just for that reason. I think at some point years ago when we were growing up, for whatever reason, somebody felt like that was being abused. I think it's something that should be revisited, but the police department doesn't send you a bill.
Okay. So one other thing I also found out is because I did not believe that I should have to pay that $25, I kind of let it lapse, and without any notice, I found out a couple of years later that they will just not come. They don't tell you if you don't pay that the police will stop coming. So, okay, so I just...
All right. It's a great point. It really is.
So I think that an agency that's responsible for the safety of individuals is extremely important. I also want to say that I'm one of the people, and you can ask some of my neighbors here, that will come out when they see something, and I have many times. What I'd like to bring up is I was one of the people who had their rims stolen and their tires. We called the police, and so the situation is this, is that I have a Black Lives Matter sign in the front of my house. The police officer who responded to our incident, granted, we saw no one committing the crime, okay? He went on for 10 minutes and told me about black crime. Okay, that is a problem. Second of all, he also got a call about an incident of domestic violence while he was talking to me and continued to talk for 3 more minutes about black crime, about giving me incidences with regard to specific incidents. I can only reason that he did this because I had a Black Lives Matter sign in my front yard. Okay, so I live at the 3800 block. In fact, I live at 3880 Utah Place. Okay, this is not the type of individual you need on your police department. This is a type of individual that has serious biases. There was no reason for him to bring up black crime, okay? Because there was no evidence whatsoever that the individual that committed this crime was black, okay? And so I think that, I believe that it is very important for enforcement and for people to have an agency that enforces laws. We also have to have individuals who have a greater responsibility doing the enforcement. So if you have any comment regarding this type of behavior, I'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. One of the hardest traits of being a good leader is making unpopular decisions. And why I say that, I applaud you in your observations and comments. I wasn't there. I don't know what was said, but let's set that aside. There's a reason that, and you can ask the Alderwoman, most of Tower Grove South has my work number, my cell phone number, my email address. I need to hear, I just actually finished an investigation somewhat similar to this about officer conduct. I need to hear this from you, and a lot of times when people email me, I blind copy you on the progression of the investigations to keep you updated. And of course, if I forget, you can email me back and go, hey, Mike, what's going on with this? But how long ago was this? I mean, was it in the last month?
I'll give you the officer's name,
Okay, yeah,
specifically right after the meeting.
Yeah.
And I will also give you the date, and you can look up the officer who
Yeah,
responded to
and
it.
that's what I need. So I can initiate, because hey, I answer to the Commissioner Dotson. Hey, we want the policemen doing the right thing, not just in law enforcement, our customer service, how we treat everyone. Treat everyone fair and equal.
Right.
And what I'm going to do, we'll talk tonight. But again, anyone in this room, if you think one of my police cars is driving too fast, hey, there might be an answer. It might be an answer for that. But with that said, your thing, you and I, Annette, will talk at the end of this, and I'll get some information from you, okay?
I'd be glad to supply it, but I
Right.
think more importantly, you just cannot have people who have these types of biases, right? Going out, they have a gun, okay? And if that's their perspective when they hear about someone stealing a couple tires, okay, with the Black Lives Matter sign, then I don't trust that person with a gun, okay? Not in my community, which is diverse, not when you have the power to both unite a community or divide a community, okay? That's what you have the power to do. And when you have justice for all, everyone, regardless of skin color, then you help to unite a community. When you do not do that, you divide it. Thank you.
And those are really great points. So just because that's not the first time that I've heard that, and that's not the first time I've heard that type of comment. So I just wanted to give you just a little bit of overview that we do take this seriously. We're taking the entire department right now through implicit bias training to help them understand that as they grow up, as we go through our daily lives, we have subconsciously made decisions, bias, and to help identify those and understand those. When an officer goes out and has an interaction with you, or you, or you, I want that interaction to be as professional and as courteous and as responsive as possible. And if it leaves you at the end of the day feeling like something is missing, we need to address that. So I want you to know, I've heard you, I've heard it before, and we're working to systematically address those issues. It's hard. It really is hard. But we're willing to roll up our sleeves, as Mike said. Hey, the leadership of the police department knows that we have challenges and realizes that we have to take on those fights, and if we don't, we're not going to get any better.
Hello, my name is Richard Buteau. I live on the 3700 block of Humphrey. And my comments really are directed to the people behind me, so I will turn my back on you, not out of any disrespect. I think the police can respond to crimes, but they cannot prevent them. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and suggest a few things. We will make our neighborhoods safer when we light it up. I came down here, like many of you, I walked here tonight. I walked down the 3800 block of Humphrey, and every blasted one of those porch lights was on. If you live on the 3800 block of Humphrey, congratulate yourself right now. I want to also suggest parking. We live in a dense city neighborhood with parallel parking. Sometimes we get lucky and find a parking place near our house. Sometimes we get lazy and park in a slipshod manner, leaving half a parking place between cars, which is not terrible, but at 10 o'clock at night, when a waiter comes home from work, or a nurse comes home from work, or your teenager who's just starting to drive comes home from work, They have to park farther, they have to walk farther because we were inconsiderate in parking. So I'd like to ask everyone here to consider parking as a crime control issue in our neighborhood. Next. I don't do it much in the winter time because I get too cold. But I welcome all the porch sitters I can find in this room to sit on your porches in the evening. Backyards are wonderful in this neighborhood, but front porches are crime prevention. So I invite you to sit on your front porch. And finally, some of you are at this meeting because you're always at this meeting. And some of you are at your first neighborhood association meeting. May I suggest, when there is nothing on the agenda that has you up in arms, you come back to a neighborhood association meeting. That you always come to the neighborhood association meetings. That you create your own meetings and you look for ways to connect with your neighbors. Thank you.
Hi, welcome. I'm glad to hear about the gun diversion program. What type of things can we be investing in as citizens to make sure that the characters, as you described them, never have opportunity to come into contact with any of you? What type of diversion things can we be investing in so that they don't ever have to meet the police, the circuit attorney, things like that? Is it education? Is it, what can we do?
And that's a great question, because I would much rather not have to respond to crime. So I just want to touch on what the Alderwoman said. I think lighting creates a sense of community and a sense of neighborhood. If you look around St. Louis University, what Father Biondi has done with the LED lighting and the strip, the St. Louis University blue, it works very well. They're looking at doing that downtown. One of the things that I noticed is I pulled up into the neighborhood, and I got a parking spot, but I only took one. So I got a parking spot, but I only took one. Was that the high-pressure sodium lights out here really don't put out enough light for this neighborhood. So I'm excited about the LEDs. So to get to your question, first, I think you have to create an environment where criminals feel like they're out in the open and they're exposed and that they don't have corners and shadows to hide in. I truly do believe that economics is our way out of this problem that we have. And by that, I mean jobs. But we can't bring jobs in unless we have qualified workforces. We don't have a qualified workforce until we get an education system that is putting out qualified. I think it's tremendous that we now have an accredited school system in the city of St. Louis. That's a huge step towards addressing the challenges that we have. And so I was just with the professor from the University of Chicago who was looking at crime and jobs, summer jobs for young people. While we think it's great that they have money in their pocket for the 6 weeks or the 8 weeks that the job program lasts, they showed that that has a residual effect in reducing crime for 18 to 24 months. So that's why when the mayor has a summer job program, it's a big deal. If we can find more jobs, couple it with education, jobs, and then we really have to get into the substance abuse issues and the conflict anger issues. Young people today have, and you may have talked about this, so I don't want to double back too much, the availability of guns in the hands of our young people today is at an epidemic proportion. It used to be when we were growing up, the big thing to do was have a car. You polished your car, you drove it around on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and you showed it off. Now with social media, 24 hours a day, young people are bombarded with images of other young people with firearms, and they start to taunt and bully over social media. And what used to be that we would solve a fight at a school, after school, you and me in the schoolyard, now it's, well, as soon as I see you, I'm going to start shooting. So we really have to get at anger management issues, the substance abuse issues, the jobs, creating a sense of community. I go to a lot of meetings. I will tell you in the last 2 nights, I have seen more people at community meetings than I've seen in a long time, and it's very encouraging. So thank you again for showing up. But those are where I am. Jobs, economics, conflict resolution, and schools.
Is there programs that we can get involved with specifically that, I'm on board with you 100% on those specific ideals.
I'll talk about one and I'll let the Alderwoman talk. Mine is a little bit on the backside. of all of the programs that I've seen for reentry, for people that have been arrested and putting them back into society in a meaningful way, right now, the recidivism rate for some classes of people that are coming out, gun classes, people that were arrested with guns, is as high as 70%. That means 7 out of 10 people that are arrested reoffend for the reasons that we just talked about. But there was a program that we did in the Wells Goodfellow neighborhood, which is in North St. Louis, that had a neighborhood accountability board. People like you, business owner, resident, member of the clergy, that would sit down with these individuals, along with probation and parole and law enforcement, and say, you're 22 years old. You have a 3-year-old daughter. When was the last time you saw your daughter? 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever the answer is. Do you think that's being a good father? Part of your probation was to get your GED. You haven't been going to classes. How are you going to provide for your daughter? And these are young men that we would encounter on the street that were ready to fight law enforcement. They're just kind of the bravado that they have. They would break down and cry in front of these groups because this is the first time that somebody had taken an interest in them. And probation and parole, we had jobs, substance abuse, education, all of that lined up. The recidivism rate went from 70%, 7 out of 10, to 16%, 1.5 out of 10. That's the program that works from a law enforcement reentry, but I'll let the Alderwoman talk for a second about the front end before they run into the criminal justice system.
So in terms of education and recreation, there are a couple of things. And, you know, I've been talking with, again, our special taxing district here that Fanning Middle School is a part of that. We don't have a lot of recreational opportunities for kids in our neighborhood. We don't have robust after-school programs. We don't have a rec center in this area. Those are things we need to be looking at as a city, and you know, as we go forward and you know, perhaps pass hopefully eventually a bond measure. Funding those rec centers is really important, and whether that is, you know, updating the ones that we have or opening rec centers in already existing schools, we need those kind of programs so that when kids are, you know, in that in-between time between, you know, school and when parents get home or bedtime or whatever, they have something productive to do. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit, but early childhood education. 80% of the brain is formed by age 3. And that is your, you learn how to cope, you learn conflict management skills, you learn all of these very critical aspects for how to be a human, basically, by the age of 3. Yet Missouri has some of the most lax and underfunded early childhood programs in the entire country. Next fall, in the 2016 election, we will be asked to vote on something called Raise Your Hand for Kids, which is a tobacco tax that will go to fund early childhood for the state of Missouri so we can get caught up with some other states. That's something that, you know, I'll be talking a lot about over the next year, but it will allow us to fund those programs all the way from, you know, birth until school, so that we're covering that entire pipeline, you know, in school, early childhood, before and after care, and getting kids in that right pipeline so we, you know, they don't have those run-ins with law enforcement.
My name's Rick Miller. I own an apartment over in Magnolia, and in the back of my apartment, I got a 12 parking lot thing. It comes to a T, there's an alley coming this way, an alley going this way. Every day, there's drug deals down there. People are bringing, last year, there must have been 15 or 20 flat screen TVs dumped off in my apartment. We called the police showed up one time. And every time something happens down there, my tenants and the neighbors call me, which I live out in South County. We have a problem down here. I said, call the police. Nobody wants to call the police. And I've caught them down there a couple times, and I pull in my parking lot, and there'd be some white kids sitting there, and next thing I said, I know what you're doing. The guy goes, what's that? I said, you're waiting for your drug deal, so get out of here. And they leave, and next thing you know, they go around the block, and a car pulls up. They pull up, they come down the alley, and they make a right. Another car pulls up, they get out of the car, and they do the drug deals, and then they take off. I was in the parking lot one time, and they turned around with me with a gun. And what are you looking at, and what are you doing? You know, I try to call the police, you know, but I live in South County. I'm a half hour away from here. You know, I don't know what to do. There's people down there in my apartment now telling me, this thing's getting bad down there.
Thank you. And again, Ed's adding that to my list. Well, hey, that's a good thing. Keep me busy. It's paramount that we dial 911. You called that one time, and we'll talk after this. I'd be curious on exactly, were you talking about them dumping debris or trash? You know, you mentioned the TVs, or was it about the drug dealing, but even another tool we have is 241 cops. If it's something that's ongoing, you can call, and you can leave your name or not, and you could get extremely detailed in your description of what's going on. So we'll talk afterwards, and the chief and, and the commissioner has given me the luxury. I use special operations a lot in the 2nd District and specifically Tower Grove South. So once we get your information tonight, I can send them down with the undercover cars and address it also.
Good, thank you.
No, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I live on the 3800 block of Hartford. I just moved to the street. I used to live on Oletha over by Friendly's, which you may or may not know is somewhat of a hot spot as well. At that time, I was there for almost 8 years. There were several murders, muggings, shootings, car break-ins. And I know for a little while there was a designation of that area as a hot spot. And there were, I think, more officers on the streets. Maybe there were some decoy cars. I'm wondering if there's a similar operation here. I apologize, I got in late, so I'm not sure if you already mentioned that. And that ties into my second question. I'm wondering, thank you all for having this meeting, and thanks for taking notes. I'm wondering what is the objective, or what's the goal? What happens after today? Is there a list of, I know the porch lights idea, the porch sitting, those were all really good ideas. I know there's some actions that you all are going to be following up on. I'm hoping I can make more neighborhood meetings, but I know there's a room full of people here wanting to do something. So I don't know if there's some, action items. We can sign up our names. If there's a fund that we might contribute to pay for extra security. I'm wondering if there's some immediate to-dos that might come out of tonight.
Some good questions.
Thank you.
Did Sarah just get here? Because I thought I'm joking. No, here, Sarah, weekly, our hotspot policing, Commissioner Dotson, and we send it out to our supervisors, our watch commanders, and the rank and file. And we target high crime areas. It might be the use of shell cars, and those are the cars we move around that are unmanned, but the characters don't know that. It could be the use of special operations units in their undercover capacity, getting these characters that are breaking into cars or committing larcenies or robberies. I spoke about special operations making 3 robbery arrests last night. A good question, though. She said, well, where do we go from here? We just had this meeting, we talk about this. I don't have, and I've been lucky, and the chief has given me the luxury. Here, we do a lot in the 2nd District. I'd expect, I hope you come to the next meeting. I stay in constant communication with all of my neighborhoods. So you're not going to wear me out. Email me, call me with all your concerns, whether it's that derelict park vehicle, the gentleman who lives in South County, with the drug dealing. I bet you in that grid, once I check it, in the last year, I bet you there's probably 1 call. That's how you can get involved more, little stuff like that. But again, for you to hold me accountable in what we do, you just need an open line of communication. We need to keep that going. So I had to say attend the meetings. Again, once the Alderwoman reviews and your president has it, we talked about the NOM, the neighborhood ownership model. Part 1, citizens on patrol. And that could be her walking her dog, or it could be sitting on your front porch like the gentleman, just detailing intelligence information. But Part 2, and then Commissioner Dotson, this is the most important to him and I, is the court advocacy or the court watch. It's imperative that we have accountability, not just for the police, the circuit attorney's office, but for the judges and the judicial system. So hopefully that helped you, ma'am.
And I just want to add one thing because I think this is a good opportunity. I agree we need generational change, but we also need an immediate strategy. And so that's why the mayor and I have asked for 160 new police officers, additional officers, and we have to find funding for those. And ultimately, I believe that some of those measures will come in front of the voters to support law enforcement. When I joined the police department in 1993, we had 1,600 police officers. I have 1,300 police officers now. And as crime has gone down over the last 20 years, and it has not only in St. Louis but nationally, it seemed okay to attrition those officers out. But now if we're going to see an uptick in crime, then we need to have the resources to address that. So when you hear about that, this just isn't an idle program. This is to put 160 officers, the men and women that wear the blue shirts, riding in the cars in your neighborhoods. So that's a big deal, and that's something that the mayor and I have been working on with the Board of Aldermen. We have to move forward with that because that will make an immediate impact. And still work on the schools and the jobs and the substance abuse and the education, but we need an immediate strategy right now because those aren't changing in the short term.
And I just wanted to reiterate one of the things that Nick said right at the beginning of the meeting, in that, you know, this organization is new, but one of the things they're looking to do is form a safety committee that looks at what we can be doing as neighbors and at a neighborhood level in conjunction with the NOM, but then perhaps also getting involved maybe in youth programs or whatever it is that that committee, feels like it fits for our community. So if you are interested in getting involved in that, I would suggest, talking with Nick after the meeting, making sure that he has your contact information or you have his. We also have our block captains. Barbie is here. She's headed up. Hand is raised. She heads up our block captains. We are trying to recruit a block captain for every single block. We're making good strides, but we need more. And so I would talk with Barbie about how you get involved in that. And so we really build this network.
My name's Hillary. I live on the 3700 block of Arsenal. And one of the things I was wondering is if someone could address the traffic patterns in our community. I think I've lived here for almost 10 years, and being on Arsenal, obviously I see a lot of the faster traffic patterns in our neighborhood, but it's always struck me that we have such a pedestrian-friendly, in some sense, neighborhood, but that all of our streets are open. You can drive very fast through all of them. Blowing through a stop sign is no big deal if you're trying to get away from somebody. And I have children. We go to the park all the time. It's kind of optional to stop for people in the crosswalks and let them cross. I think a runner got hit on Magnolia recently. But I also know that our alley got blocked off from Grand recently in the last couple years, and aside from the night of the protests on South Grand, our alley crime has gone down incredibly. So I think I'm just wondering what we can do. Is there anything we can do? I think the suggestions to be out in the community, you love to be out in our neighborhood and out in the community, but it doesn't feel like some of the communities over by Hampton that are a little smaller and where people are out all the time because there's traffic kind of coming through our community all the time, and with children and letting them walk places. So I didn't know if someone would address that.
Let me speak to that. So for the 15th Ward, we commissioned a traffic study, and I'm not sure if you live in Tower Grove. You do live in Tower Grove Heights. So we commissioned a traffic study earlier this year, took in resident input. If you did not have an opportunity to put input, please email me. We are adding to it every day as we get more complaints. We have a traffic engineering company that is taking the problem areas that we've identified through the resident feedback, doing more in-depth analysis and coming up with a comprehensive plan for what we can do for the ward to make it more pedestrian friendly, cyclist friendly, and traffic friendly. So it's in the works, and we're expecting mid-December to have the first round of feedback from the traffic engineering company on what some of those recommendations are.
The bike lanes have been incredible. Just a big thank you for those. Very helpful.
Hi, my name is Zanique Gardner, and I kind of live in Bevo Mill with my mom. I just moved to St. Louis from Philadelphia. I've lived in Philadelphia for 12 years, although I'm a St. Louis area native. And I've been courting the Fox Park Neighborhood Association meeting because I'm looking at that neighborhood closely as a place to live and move. But I've also been interested in Tower Grove South for a lot of reasons, mainly because of it looks like you have a pretty bustling nightlife, and of course Tower Grove Park is across the way. But I will say that it's pretty disheartening, especially in comparison to Fox Park, in the way that you are approaching how to combat crime in your neighborhood, and what's been talked about an innumerable amount of times tonight has been lighting, sitting on your porch, bolting down guns in your car. And there's been very little talk about engaging your neighbors, talking to the people who live next to you, talking to folks who live in the apartment buildings who don't necessarily speak as well as you do, but you know they have little kids who are probably struggling with reading. There are no after-school programs in your neighborhood, or there are no community centers that you can send them to. But what happened to like caring for your neighbor in a way, and caring for your community in a way that you make sure that they're reading, and you're opening up your home to those young children, or you're talking to that neighbor who probably doesn't speak as well as you do, who don't look like you, who probably don't have the resources that you do. They don't own a home. They are probably, receiving some type of federal or government assistance. But you come out of your house, you speak to them, you speak to their kids, you get to know their names. And I think that that's what's fundamentally missing from these communities and this neighborhood. You haven't talked about that tonight. I'm not sure if that's actually happening. I'm not sure if we're actually engaging people who don't look like us. I know I try hard to, but I mean, I guess that's what we're expected to do in this country. And that's unfortunate. And I hope the Tower Grove South can look beyond lighting, depending on the police force to do things. I'm hoping that, Captain, you've been great tonight in speaking about a lot of things. I know you probably try your hardest, but I hope that when you encounter these young boys, that you're partnering with the Urban League, and you're partnering with 100 Black Men who do a lot of work in the juvenile detention center here. And I'm sure that if you have some names for them and you say, hey, I met this young guy the other day, he's like on this wrong path, but he has some potential. Can you guys look into following up with him and his mom instead of just serving them some type of warrant or summons to court? Let's look for some real solutions that we can do as people in the human race. It's unfortunate that this is what we are turning to in order to deter crime in our neighborhoods and our communities. We're supposed to be communities. Let's build real communities, real change. And I hope that happens not in just Fox Park, but here in Tower Grove South.
Hello, my name is Mark. I've been living in the neighborhood close to 25 years. I live in the 4,000 block of Oletha. I'm not sure if anybody else is aware of it. It was coined you call me 5 times, a red flag goes up for the same incident. Early on, when we first moved in, we had a 4-family across the street, constantly a problem. It wasn't necessarily the owner, it was the tenants. So an officer responded to our complaint, noise, I don't remember the time. He says, we go on a 5-point system. If we get 5 calls of a similar topic for a similar address, that's like a red flag to us. It worked beautifully. We've gone through 4 owners of that 4-family, and every time we get a character, the neighbors collaborate together. We've got a good band on our group in the 4,000 block, and they're gone. 4 months, 6 months, a year, they're gone. So it does work. The light's on. I like to see where I'm going. We had a young lady 3 houses up. Unfortunately, a young man, 25 years younger than me, watched it go down, but he didn't realize until after it happened. There was a character in between 2 cars. Elderly lady stepped out. He knocked her down, not so much force, but she fell and broke her leg. By the time the young man across the street realized what happened, it was over and done with. But lights in the neighborhood, that man would have been seen between those 2 cars. Those, whatever those high power lights you call them, those are phenomenal. Those are really great. But if you see a problem, call. Wear those guys out. We're paying their salaries. So wear them out, let them respond. I've had you guys come to the door, because I'm not afraid to tell you who I am and where I'm at. Come talk to me. I'll tell you exactly what I saw. And you guys will come by and say, hey, the kid was doing okay, he was fine. We had a rolling meth lab in that 4-family across the house. He's not there anymore. So it works, but you got to stick together.
We have these 2 more gentlemen in line, and then I think we're going to wrap it up since we're twice as long as usual. So.
Hi, my name is Mike. I live in the 4,000 block of Arsenal, and I think the police do a great job, but I know you can't be everywhere all the time, and I think we're a target-rich environment, and I was curious about your thoughts about private security. Like if this were ever to graduate to like a homeowner and business owner association that possibly paid dues, that money could go into surveillance cameras, private security with off-duty police, something along those lines. I was just curious about what the police thought about, you know, private security, you know, beefing up, you know, awareness.
Here's my, in a nutshell, and the Alderwoman is a dear friend of mine, but we need these 150 police officers. We need this passed by the Boulder Alderman and move on. We need more officers on the street, period. I mean, you know, if the, I don't see why we have to hire off-duty policemen in that capacity. You know, like the chief said, when we came on, 1,800 policemen, crime has went down. We've built up parts of the city with entertainment venues, but what have we always neglected? We, down at City Hall, we didn't set money aside for public safety, so here we are now scrambling. So I would say support the Alderwoman. Let's get this passed and start hiring these policemen. Because, you know, I wish I could put a policeman on every corner. I can't. I need some more policemen on the street.
Just say that we do have a special taxing district for a part of the ward right now that it was started a number of years ago, I think 8 years ago now, that that does have additional security. It has worked in that area. I'm with the captain though. I think that there are other ways that we can go about doing that and addressing crime without having to set up all of these special taxing districts throughout the city. And I do think that, you know, once we find a funding mechanism that works, just to give you a little background, we had been brought the proposal for 170 officers. Part of the funding for that was coming from red light cameras, which you've probably seen in the media has been declared unconstitutional. We no longer have that pot of money. So we're kind of back to the drawing board for figuring out how we can pay for this. And I know that we've had folks in the mayor's office and the city councilor's office who have been looking into different funding streams and different taxes that could go to support this. So it's finding money is always difficult, but we're doing it, and there's a group of us at the board who are really committed to, you know, this next round of budget, really scrubbing things down and figuring out if we have things in there that, you know, really are obsolete and don't necessarily need to be funded anymore, so that we can make room for things that our community does want and needs. So that's just a little update on that.
Hi, my name is Dan Brazel. I'm the block captain, 4000 block of Thalozin. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks to everyone here. Two quick questions, I guess, for efficiency. So of the number of crimes, of violent crimes, say muggings and burglaries that have happened within the last year, what percentage of people, of suspects, have been caught and prosecuted? So that's the first question. And obviously, probably don't have the data on you now, but I'd certainly like to follow up and figure that information out. Second question, thank you very much for bringing up what you said. So as we are part of our own community and raising people of our community, what percentage of the suspects or people who have been prosecuted actually live in our community? So I'd like to know if these are people who have been convicted or suspected of doing these crimes. Are they within our community, or are they coming from out of town? Thank you.
No, thank you. Good question. And Ed will be getting your email. We'll have you an email tomorrow morning crafted with that information for you.
Well, can that be sent to everyone that signed it? What I can do, folks, is I'll compile that information. Is it okay if I get to you and then with the
Yeah, you can do a follow-up.
Yeah, so if you don't have your names and emails on those lists, do that, because that's probably the most efficient way to do that. But I'll get that information and I'll get out to you.
Okay, been in the neighborhood for 41 years. Probably a little bit too long. I jotted down some notes while this was going on. Just want to say, if I called you guys every time I saw somebody suspicious on Arsenal, you'd be on my block full time. I've lived here since the 70s. I'm more afraid for my family than I've ever been. My wife's in her 50s, comes home with the groceries every Saturday. I worry about her and my mom together. There used to be police everywhere in the neighborhood. They're gone now. Well, that was explained. 300 of them gone. It's a shame. There used to be a cop that sat up almost daily on Arsenal back in the 70s, pulling cars over for speeding. Well, we fixed that by putting stop signs up there that everybody runs. I can't even hardly pull out of my parking spot during rush hour. It's a nice concept, talking about lighting things up, but we're having people robbed in broad daylight. So what are lights going to do? Let's see, what other notes did I have? What can we do to get more police? Do we need to get some laws changed? Do we need to raise the city earnings tax? Do we need to take the parking meter money that's gone up so ridiculously high? I mean, my street cleaning tickets used to be $10, they're $15 now. Where does that money go? It should be going to you guys, because quite honestly, you guys are laughing, but we're not safe. We're being held under siege by the bad guys. And for us to stand up, that's ridiculous. It'll take 10 or 15 of us for every one bad guy that has a gun. And probably still some of us will lose. You can cut me off at any point, because I still have more. In the 70s through the 90s, I was burglarized twice at my house. Garage burglaries. In the 2000s, my house has been broken into while we were in there. At about 8:30 at night, I've had complete trailers stolen, cargo trailer, and I've had two other ones that I replaced it with that have been broken into twice. The third time it happened, the officer that responded kind of had an attitude with me. He's like, well, you know, if this happens again, I'm starting to think you got something to do with this. It was offensive to me. Let's see. And I guess that's all I got.
Thank you. A lot of good topics. Did you get all that, Ed? No. So we've been in the city about the same amount of time. Hey, again, two things I've gathered out of tonight that I need to do better is communicate. Hey, again, in my small world, you know, I always mess with our older persons. I'm begging you, I don't know what's the holdup, please get this rate, or get the money to hire these 170. What we all voted as a region to spend, what, $300 million on the arch? What about law enforcement? Okay, so I don't think we should necessarily hold a job development hostage and with law enforcement, but that's just a comment. So my friend, she'll yell at me later, but hey, I need the board of aldermen to step up. Hey, we didn't lose that much. There's money out there. Let's find it and hire, not just hire 170, but here, these young police officers. Hey, you know what? One of the many problems Commissioner Dotson has. These kids can go, men and women, to St. Louis County and make $6,000 to $8,000 more. Now think about that. And I wouldn't want that battle. That's a hard job. So, but the many things I've learned from you tonight, and with my ego, I think I'm the best leader around, but you make me stronger. And well, thanks, Chief. He's going to get you later. But hey, this young lady, ma'am, what's your last name? Gardner. Hey, Miss Gardner really, she got my attention tonight because we're talking about lights and stop signs and, you know, different items. But again, she's looking at the neighborhood. Guarantee I'm a lot older than you, but still, we're sitting back, she's going, where's all the communication between, you know, the citizens? And that's a good observation. So when I do a lot of foot beats, when I'm walking Tower Grove South and Shaw and St. Louis Hills or wherever I'm at, now I'm going to be thinking what she said, and I'm going to be asking the people that own single families or some of the gentlemen I know that own multifamilies going, you guys ever interact? I'm probably going to hear no. And that is truly sad to me. So, but I'm going to do what I can to change that. I can't do much, but I'm going to do the best I can. So.
Can I step in?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbie Kunnemeyer. I'm the co-block captain leader along with Deborah Knox-Dyerman here. And I just wanted to note that, particularly in response to what you had said, that is where block captains really come into play. And so that is going on, but we need it to go on more. We do have a block captain sign-up sheet over there that's being held up, and we would love to have more participation. That is exactly what needs to happen. Alderwoman Green cannot know everybody in her ward. These police officers cannot know everybody who lives in this neighborhood. But what we can do is the block captains can know who they live by. That's a reasonable amount of people to know who's on your block. Start making those connections with the people that you're actually next door to. That's where the communication happens. That's where you start mobilizing and saying, okay, we're gonna have a block party. People are gonna meet each other. And then ideas are gonna grow from that, and people are going to want more of that. And it really starts from there. And then it's really exciting when you get that going. I know probably a couple block captains here would love to tell their stories to you about how they've started meeting people, how they've had block parties, and how well that's gone. So it is happening. And Nick mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that even if your block has a block captain, don't let that stop you from getting involved, because most of us would love, love, love to share that responsibility with other people so that it's not just one person who's responsible for the entire block, but a whole group of people on that block who really want to participate, that the block captain can know, I've got other people who want to take part in this and who are willing to be the eyes on the street then, be the people who are mobilizing the other people on the block. So please, if you're looking to leave this meeting with an immediate action item, start getting involved with the block captains.
Okay, we'll have one last comment. Yeah, you good? All right.
Hi, guys. Thank you for coming out to the Tower Grove South neighborhood meeting. This was specifically about safety and community issues, and for you to get to talk and peel off that scab and say things that have hurt you or scared you about your neighborhood, which you love, and that is why you are here. And I'm so glad all of you came, okay? And please continue talking to your neighbors. Continue being that person that I say hello to every day. And I really hope you come to another meeting or do something out on South Grand or out in the park and get involved. We've got gardens. We've got everything that you can do to make this neighborhood better. And every step is reaching out to us, finally getting involved more with people, younger people, which is the hard thing that we haven't touched on really recently. But I'm so glad you're all here, and I just keep coming back. I know this was a tough meeting. All right.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of you so much for attending.